Chosen one, pay close attention to what I am about to tell you now because we are talking hours, not days. The new moon of June 15th is approaching at a speed most people have yet to realize, and whatever you are carrying at this very moment, at this instant your eyes meet these words, may be exactly what will be planted in the next cycle of your life. I need you to take a deep breath before continuing, because what I am going to reveal here is not a generic forecast. It is not just another piece of superficial astrology content that you will forget in 5 minutes. I'm going to show you the 7 signs that the new moon in Gemini is already showing you right now. Exactly what needs to be cleared, recognized, and named before the peak. And I will tell you in advance that signs number 4 and number 5 are the most important of all, because they will reveal exactly what you need to do before the 15th. And if you are not attentive, you might end up planting the new cycle with the wrong energy and carry that for the next 28 days, or for the next 6 months, or even for the rest of the year. And here is the detail no one tells you, chosen one, the detail that separates those who understand energy from those who merely observe the sky. The new moon does not only plant what you consciously desire, it does not just plant your beautiful intention written in a notebook with a lit candle and a crystal by your side. It also plants the thoughts that are active within you, the conversations that still echo inside your mind, the fears you still feed without realizing it, the old narratives that remain alive in your field, and everything you have not yet managed to recognize as the past. This is why so many people emerge from a new moon with the strange feeling that something did not go the way it should have. This is why so many people plant the same repeated life cycle after cycle, always thinking the problem is the universe, when in truth, the problem is the internal state at the moment of planting. But before I show you the 7 signs, you need to understand one fundamental thing, one thing that completely changes the way you will live these next few days. The new moon does not begin when the sky goes dark. It does not begin when the astrologer announces the exact time of the peak. The new moon begins long before that. It begins when your mind starts to show what is still occupying space inside you. It begins when the invisible starts to move before the visible, and that is exactly what is happening right now, at this moment, to you. June 13th and 14th function as a kind of internal sweep, chosen one, and I want you to burn this word into your mind. Sweep. It is no coincidence if, over the last 2 days, you have been feeling repetitive thoughts returning, if strange dreams have invaded your early hours, if pending conversations you swore you had forgotten have returned to echo in your head, if old emotions that seemed dormant have started to stir deep in your chest, if subtle discomforts have started to appear in your body for no apparent reason. None of this is random. None of this is just stress. None of this is just accumulated fatigue. None of this is just life being difficult once again. This is your field being swept by the energy of the approaching new moon, and everything that was hidden in the corners of your consciousness is being brought to the surface so that you may decide before the peak what enters and what does not enter the next cycle. And here is where the specific detail of this new moon comes in. It happens in Gemini, and Gemini rules the mind, speech, messages, interpretation, the way you converse with yourself, the way you choose the words that define your reality. Therefore, the main cleansing of this new moon is not happening on the material plane. It is not happening in your visible relationships. It is not happening in your work or your money in the first place. The cleansing is happening in the most intimate place of all, a place where almost no one looks, in the way you think, in the way you speak to yourself, in the way you interpret what happens to you. This new moon is a mental planting, and that means if your mind is full of fear, comparison, urgency, attachment, haste, resentment, or self-accusation at the moment of its peak, you will plant an entire cycle contaminated by this old energy, even if the intention you've written on paper is the most beautiful in the world. The universe doesn't just listen to what you write, escolhido. The universe listens to the internal state that sustains what you write. And that is why I ask, with the greatest seriousness I can muster, that on these days, the 13th and 14th, you do not seek noise, less exposure to social media, less need to explain your life to others, less screen time, less impulsive reaction, less arguing, less defensiveness, less static, more observation, more silence. More attention to what is trying to return to your consciousness, because what is returning has a specific message for you, and that message will not arrive if you are screaming outward. Now observe with great care, because these are the 7 signs that the new moon is already finding something in your field before the peak, and I want you to mark on the palm of your hand, in your notebook, or in your phone's notepad. Which of these signs are happening to you right now? The first sign is a mental heaviness with no clear cause. You wake up and feel as if you are carrying too many thoughts, as if you have an invisible backpack pressing down on your head, even when externally nothing serious has happened. You look at the day and cannot identify a specific reason for feeling this way, and that confuses you even more. Escollido. This is not seasonal depression. This is not a lack of caffeine. This is not the cloudy weather. This is your field warning you that there are repetitive thoughts taking up space, and the new moon is asking you to recognize what they are. The second sign is precisely this. Repetitive thoughts return with force. A person you swore you had forgotten reappears in your thoughts for no reason. A decision you thought you had already made begins to bother you again. An old conversation starts playing over in your head as if it happened yesterday. A fear you put away months or years ago comes back to knock on the door of your mind. And here is the secret. Escollido. This is not returning to torment you. This is returning to show you what still needs to be named before the new moon plants the next cycle. If you do not name it, you plant it along with the rest. If you pretend you didn't see it, you plant it along with the rest. The third sign is that dreams, phrases, and symbols begin to become more intense. You dream of people you haven't seen in years. You wake up with a specific phrase in your head that seems to have come from somewhere else. You start seeing the same repeated numbers, the same words appearing in different places, the same song playing at strange moments. Messages seem more emotionally charged than they should be. Everything seems to be telling you something, and in truth it really is. Take your notebook now, or open a note on your phone and write a simple sentence, a sentence that will change your experience of this new moon. What has returned in the last 2 days that I cannot take into the new cycle? Let the answer come. Do not force it. Do not judge it. Just observe what your inner self begins to whisper. And here, Escollido, I need to stop for a moment and tell you something you may have never heard with such clarity. You are not here by chance. You did not come to this video, to this content, to this exact moment of your life by coincidence. You are one of those who always knew, always. Since you were a child, you felt the environment before entering it. You knew things before they were said. You perceived what others did not, and instead of being celebrated for it, you were told to shut your mouth. They said you were too sensitive, too dramatic, exaggerated, intense, complicated, hard to understand. They taught you to doubt what you felt. They taught you to apologize for seeing what no one else wanted to see. And so you grew up asking for permission to exist, asking for permission to have intuition, asking for permission to have an opinion, asking for permission to be who you were born to be. And now, chosen one, you are in this new moon, at this exact point in your life, realizing that you can't go on anymore. You can't keep pretending you don't see. You can't keep staying small just so others won't be bothered by your greatness. You were born seeing what others don't, and you spent your life apologizing for it. Stay silent for 1 more year and lose who you were. The matrice du despertar is the end of the lie you were taught to live. And I tell you this with my heart in my hands, because the new moon of June 15th is pushing you toward a decision you had been putting off. Either you embrace your gift, or you spend another whole cycle pretending. And believe me, chosen one, 1 more cycle pretending costs dearly. It costs your peace. It costs your purpose. It costs your calling. The matrice du despertar was built exactly for those living this moment right now, for those who realized the signs won't stop appearing, for those who understood that this feeling in the chest will not go away until it is honored. If something inside you shifted while I was speaking, that is your inner self confirming what your mind is still trying to rationalize. Trust it. Go and awaken what has always been yours. Now take a deep breath, because we still have a long way to go in this video, and the next signs are exactly the ones that separate those who plant the right cycle from those who plant another repeated one. Now we reach the two most important signs of this new moon. Chosen one, and I asked for your attention from the beginning because this is where everything is decided. These two signs don't just show what is returning. They show what can trap you for another whole cycle if it isn't recognized before the peak of the 15th. Sign number 4 is this. Something in your life has become impossible to justify. You know what I am talking about. There is a relationship or a habit, or a conversation or a promise or a routine or a belief that you had been sugarcoating for months, perhaps for years. You had been telling a beautiful story about it. You had been finding reasons to continue. You had been inventing explanations for yourself. You had been dragging your feet. You had been saying, "I'll deal with it later. Now is not the time. It can still work out. Let's see how it goes." And suddenly, on these days of the 13th and 14th, it appeared with an uncomfortable, almost aggressive clarity. You can no longer dress it up. You can no longer romanticize it. You can no longer pretend that everything is fine. This is not confusion, chosen one, and I want you to etch this into your mind. This is not confusion. This is unacknowledged truth. The new moon in Gemini removes the pretty story that the mind had been telling to keep something misaligned functioning within your life. Gemini is the sign of the word, of the narrative, of interpretation, and when the new moon forms in it, it clears away the false narratives you had been sustaining so as not to face what needs to be faced. That relationship you know drains you. That job you know is no longer your place. That habit you know is pulling you away from the person you want to be. That friendship you know has become mere appearance. That silent agreement you made with yourself not to touch what hurts. All of this is appearing now, and it is appearing because the new moon wants you to decide before the peak whether or not this enters the next cycle. Sign number 5 comes right after, and it complements the 4th in a very specific way. The body responds before the mind. You feel a tightness in your chest for no apparent reason. You feel a weight on your shoulders that does not subside even after resting. You feel a strange weariness, the kind that sleep does not resolve. You feel an unease in your stomach, a fluttering sensation without any romantic reason. You feel an almost physical need for silence, to be alone, to not speak to anyone, to not look at a screen, to not answer a message. Escolido, your body is more intelligent than your rational mind. Your body knows first. Your body understands first. Your body has already decided beforehand. It is just waiting for your mind to stop negotiating so it can finally calm down. When the body starts speaking through subtle symptoms like these, it is because it has already understood what the mind is still trying to convince itself otherwise. And the action before the 15th is simple, but it is powerful. Take a physical piece of paper. Do not type on your phone, take actual pen and paper, and write one exact sentence. Write it like this. This is not aligned with who I am becoming, and I do not choose to plant this in my new moon. And you name it. It could be a person, it could be a behavior, it could be a routine, it could be a belief, it could be a fear, it could be an old shame. You name it, Escolido. Because that which is not named is planted, and that which is named is dismissed. After the mind and the body have already shown what cannot continue, the last two signs reveal something even deeper, and this is where many people lose the opportunity of this new moon. They reveal the real direction of the new cycle, and this direction almost never comes with fireworks. It comes with whispers. Sign number 6 is a very specific sensation, and I need you to feel well what I am going to describe so you can recognize if this is happening to you. It is not common anxiety. It is not that nervous end-of-the-month rush. It is not that distress of someone waiting for news. It is a silent anticipation, almost serene, as if a part of you knew that a new phase is approaching, even without having any proof of it in external reality. It is as if your inner self were rearranging furniture in a new room before you move in. It is as if you were waiting for someone to arrive, but that someone is a new version of you. This sensation must be observed without haste, Escolido. Do not try to force answers. Do not try to decipher everything at once. Do not try to decide what you will do with this before even understanding what it is. Just ask yourself, where is my energy naturally leaning these days? Observe what calls to you. Observe what brings you lightness. Observe what appears with ease. Observe which subjects excite you just by thinking about them. Observe which ideas seem to have a life of their own inside you. The direction of your next cycle is hidden exactly there, in the natural inclination of your energy. Sign number 7 is the most subtle of all, and also the most transformative. It is a silent certainty that you are no longer the same. You look at certain reactions that used to dominate you, and you realize that they no longer dominate you with the same force. You look at certain desires that used to consume you, and you realize that they have lost some of their shine. You look at certain repeated patterns in your life, and you realize that you no longer have the patience to repeat them. You look at certain fears that used to paralyze you, and you realize that they still exist, but you no longer obey them in the same way. Something has changed inside you without warning you. You have become someone different without ceremony, without celebration, without announcement. And this new person is watching you now, waiting for you to recognize who they are, so that you can plant the new moon from them and not from the person you used to be. Here is the central sentence of this new moon of June 15th, Escolido. And I want you to write it down. Save it. Repeat it many times over the next few days. The new moon is not just asking what you want to start. It is asking who you have become before you start. Because an intention planted by the old person harvests the fruits of the old life. An intention planted by the new person reaps the fruits of the new life. It is not desire that changes the cycle. It is the identity that sustains the desire at the moment it is planted. Now that you have recognized the 7 signs, comes the most important part of all, chosen one. And I ask you not to skip this part, because it is exactly here that it is decided whether you will take advantage of this new moon, or if it will pass by as so many others have. What to do before the peak, so as not to plant the next cycle with the wrong energy. First, let me quickly recap, because I want you to be able to look at your life over the last 48 hours and identify how many of these signs you have already experienced. Mental weight with no clear cause, repeated thoughts returning with force, dreams, phrases, symbols, and messages more intense than usual, something in your life that became impossible to soften or justify. Body's response before the mind's response, silent anticipation that something is coming, and the deep certainty that you are no longer the same. If you checked 3 or more of these signs, chosen one, you are exactly at the center of what the new moon wants to do with you. And now I will give you 3 practices to do before the peak, 3 simple practices, but ones that completely change the internal state with which you arrive at the 15th. The first practice is this. Write down what does not enter the new cycle. Take a paper, take a pen, and make an honest list without judgment, with no one watching, without needing to show it to anyone later. Everything that you recognized in signs 1 through 5 will go on this list. The repeated thoughts that no longer serve you, the people whose presence you need to diminish, the habits that are distancing you from who you want to be, the old beliefs that you still repeat without realizing it, the fears you no longer want to feed, the self-accusations you make against yourself, the comparisons that steal your peace, everything that became impossible to justify. You write down each item, chosen one, and as you write you say mentally, "Yo reconheço, yo nomeio, yo no levo." This small ceremony changes your field. You can even burn this paper afterwards, or tear it up, or bury it, or simply keep it as a record of what was left behind. The second practice is equally important. Write a declaration of the new mind. And here it is not a request. Chosen one, listen well. It is not a request. You are not going to write, "I want to have," "I want to be," "I want to reach." When you write in the format of desire, you reinforce the absence. The declaration of the new mind is written in the present, as an identity, not as a request. You write, "I am someone who thinks like this. I am someone who reacts like this. I am someone who chooses like this. I am someone who deserves this. I am someone who occupies this space. I am someone who receives without guilt. I am someone who decides for peace. I am someone who trusts my own intuition." You describe yourself as the new person, chosen one. You use the pen as a tool for identity construction. You read it out loud. You read it looking at yourself in the mirror, if you have the courage. and you feel each sentence in your body, letting them settle inside you before the peak of the new moon. The third practice is the most underestimated of all, and precisely for that reason, it is the most powerful. Practice 15 to 30 minutes of silence before the peak, without screens, without conversation, without music, without trying to explain anything to anyone, not even to yourself. Just silence, just presence, just your body breathing, just your inner self finally being able to speak without being interrupted by external noise. Chosen one, the new moon planted in the field of those who entered into silence, because it was in that silence that the universe was able to hear who you truly are, without a mask, without a narrative, without a performance. The silence before the peak is the soil where the truest intention germinates. Without silence, you plant noise. With silence, you plant the truth. And here is the closing escolido, and I want you to feel this in your chest before you leave this video. The new moon will not just plant your words written in a notebook. It will not just plant your beautiful intention, your organized prayer, your rational request. It will plant above all the internal state you choose to maintain when no one is looking, when you are alone in your room, when you are in the shower, when you are driving, when you are waiting for sleep to come. It is this internal state, this state of truth, this state without an audience, that becomes the real seed of the next cycle. Therefore, on these days, the 13th, 14th, and 15th, take care of what you sustain within yourself when there is no one to impress. Take care of what you think when there is no one to agree with you. Take care of what you feel when there is no one to validate it. Because the new moon will harvest exactly that and return it multiplied in the next 28 days, in the next 6 months. And who knows, depending on the intensity of your presence, in the entire next year of your life. You are facing one of the most important windows of the year, escolido. Not because I am saying so, but because your own body, your own mind, and your own field have already warned you in the last 2 days that something is happening. You just needed someone to confirm what you were already feeling. And that is exactly what this moment was for you. A confirmation, a reminder, a call to honor what is alive within you before the peak arrives. Now, before I close, I want to ask you one specific thing, because committing out loud, even if by writing in a comment, changes the energy of what you have just received. Comment down below, "U planto a novamente." These 5 words will act as an energetic signature, a seal that you have committed to the version of you that is being born in this new moon. And right after that comment, I want you to tell me, with sincerity, which of the 7 signs was the strongest for you on the 13th and 14th? Was it the mental weight without a cause? Was it the repetitive thoughts? Was it the dreams and symbols? Was it something that became impossible to soften? Was it the body's response? Was it the silent anticipation? Was it the certainty that you are no longer the same? Write to me, because reading what is happening to you helps me guide the next pieces of content exactly where your souls are asking for. And remember, escolido, the new moon of June 15th is just the beginning. Whoever enters it with a clear mind, with the truth named, with the new identity established, will come out on the other side completely different. Not because the sky performed a miracle, but because you finally did what needed to be done, at the exact moment it needed to be done, without postponing another cycle, without pretending one more time, without letting fear decide for you again. Take a deep breath, feel the weight of these words, and go take care of what needs to be taken care of before the peak. Because the next version of you is waiting, and it won't wait forever.